the next speaker on my list is the Vice Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission in Malaysia, Dato Dr. Madeline Berma. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, honorable members of the expert mechanism on the rights of indigenous peoples, EMRIP, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, or we call them as SUHAKAM. Okay? In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Malaysian government has undertaken several measures to contain the spread of the pandemic within the country. These included the imposition of movement control orders, or what we call MCO here, and the closure of public and private premises, including institutions of learning and government premises, except for those providing essential services. Due to the movement control orders, there are a few impacts, okay? Number one is that certain segments of the indigenous peoples lost their income, especially those who depend mainly on daily sales of forest produce and daily wage from plantation jobs in the agriculture sector. Number two, the food aid distribution by the government was not comprehensive enough, as the scheme was confined only to villages registered in the government's database or system. Number three, indigenous peoples were also unable to equally benefit from the government's economic stimulus packages due to the pre-existing lack of internet infrastructure and language barriers, among other reasons. As students in the rest of the countries, the youth and children in rural areas were unable to attend schools. As the schools were closed, the opportunity for them to continue their studies were hampered due to the lack of internet infrastructure and technological facilities. Also, indigenous women also faced limited access to reproductive health care during the MCO period, and it was further compounded by their remote locations and tribal views on family planning. The Commission has made several recommendations to the Malaysian government for their consideration, including the following. One, establish a post-MCO recovery fund to support and recover the indigenous people's livelihood. Two, ensure automatic registration of the indigenous people as recipients of the government's aid. Provide financial support and necessary facilities to enable remote learning for indigenous youth and children. And finally, include indigenous people's representatives in emergency and health response committees, both during and after the pandemic. The Commission, with the cooperation of the European Union and local governmental organizations, work closely together in distributing aid to the vulnerable communities and conduct capacity building workshops to enhance their livelihood skills. Finally, the Commission calls on the Malaysian government to take the necessary steps towards progressively achieving the full realization of the economic and social rights of the indigenous peoples as provided under Article 21 of EMRIP. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that very important intervention. Our next speaker on the list is Trisha Keir.